Yes, people, how you doing? Welcome back to the Spurs Talk Show. Second video of the day. I hope you are hungry for some debate. I have managed to pull together one of the one of the loveliest guys in all of the Tottenham community, Sim Cherie. I've got an argument. He'll have three. It's all about Ange Postecoglou tonight. I've been looking for a guy who is Angin, the most Angin of everybody, and we found him. A brilliant intellectual and a major part of the community. And I've also got Johnny H3232, part of the furniture. You know him. You love him as Mr. Ange Out. So we're going to go at it today, and I hope it's going to be civil and civic, and it's going to be lovely and juicy, and everyone can get stuck in. Please be respectful in the comments, as you always are. Please smash the like button. Please smash the subscribe. Make sure you get over to the various channels that are posted in the little links below there. We are Tottenham TV and Johnny H3232 and Talking Tottenham 1882 and also Football Inc. Sim, how you doing, buddy? Good to see you, mate.
Look, still buzzing, still on top of the world. It's only been, what is it, Wednesday today? I can't even remember. I've lost track of the days. So much drinking. I've lost track of all kind of time and space. That trophy has really...
And your mental faculties.
Exactly. Only a week out and people are back on the complaint train. I'm here to set the record straight. Come on. Let's get behind the manager. We look, he's won us the trophy. I'm going to explain why everything's okay. We can all stop complaining and being worried for the future. Let's all get excited. Come on.
Johnny, how you doing, mate?
I'm fine. Listen, if ever I was going to debate with someone, with me, Ange Out, it would be Sim. I just want to put a disclaimer. Whatever we may say, we'll all hug and make up after the end. It's all about opinions, and that's why we love football. If we all agreed, it would be the most boring game in the world. So let battle commence, and I couldn't be happier to be debating it with anyone better than Sim, to be honest. So who, I've got to be honest with you, Sim has stood by Ange despite every single defeat. And I message him and I say, Sim, well, still Ange.
Yeah, no, listen, Sim has been 100% behind him. I was 85% behind him. A lot of people were confusing that. For the purposes of today's hour, we've got an hour together, guys. Yeah. I'm gonna let Johnny play the role of Ange Out. I'm gonna let Sim play the role of Ange In. I'm gonna give them both a 60-second opening gambit to explain why they feel the way they feel. I'm not gonna necessarily play chaperone, but what I am gonna do is play the devil's advocate for the pair of them. And if I feel that one or the other is missing out on a key variable, then I understand the logic on both sides of the argument. So I will play a swinging support. I'm going to be a tennis bat tonight, tennis racket, and I'll help if I need to. But I'm probably going to lean into Johnny's side and probably just bury Sim because it's a little bit easier and more fun to do that. But no, I'm kidding.
Come on, I'll take on all comers.
Listen, we can go backwards and forwards because listen, I can sit here and reel off a whole load of stats, which I feel will bury Ange, but Sim, on the other hand, will give us like a counter argument that stats aren't everything, and there's context to the stats, right?
Sim, on the other hand, will tell us why it's all about good feels and vibes. It'll be interesting.
Sim will tell me why tomorrow is not Thursday, right? It is in fact Wednesday, which is great. Which is great.
All right, let's get going. I'll give you the opening minute.
Thursday and Wednesday? I don't know. Who knows?
It's Thursday somewhere. Sim, I'll give you the opening gambit. Why is it that Ange Postecoglou, in your mind, should be given the reins for this summer, the most important summer that I think most of us can probably agree has occurred or will occur for a long, long time to get us back at the top table? Why do you think that Ange should not just have this money, but also the next 12 months?
I think he should have this money, and I think he should have next season. First of all, he said he was going to win a trophy in his second season, and he bloody well did it. And you look, you can yawn all you want. It's a man who put his balls on the line, balls on the table, and he delivered. He gave us a promise, and he delivered on that promise. And not only that, look, when it comes to a guy who's the job he's done at Tottenham, if you look at his first two seasons, people say Ange doesn't work in the Premier League. Look at our league form. Ange clearly can't hack the Premier Leave. Well, they leave out in the first season. He did finish fifth. Okay, finished in the top 5 without Harry Kane in that first season. Gloss over it all you want. Yes, we've had a lot of problems this season, a myriad of issues. The summer was a disaster in hindsight, only signing teenagers, not being ready for 2 games a week. Albeit, I think at the beginning of the season, statistically, if you look at the underlying numbers for the beginning of the season, we were one of the highest performing teams in the league. But due to the fact the result, it's true. Look at the underlying numbers. That's the truth.
Hang on, Johnny.
Yeah. Are we talking?
Hang on, Johnny. Wait, Johnny. Wait. Go on.
If you look at it, underlying numbers, that's the truth. Yes, the results probably we didn't get some of the results we deserved to get, but we were hit by an injury crisis in December, which derailed our season. It meant a lot of our high-performing, most important players for 3 to 4 months of the season, we were relying on teenagers for 3 games a week. Players like Fraser Forster as well, Ben Davis, who aren't up to, I think, at this level right now. It derailed our season. It meant that come March time, when we had the players back, the league season was completely done. We knew we weren't getting anywhere. So he took the decision in March. Am I going to try and improve the league place by a few places, try and get it back into that mid-table and try and get respectable league place? Or am I going to do what no other manager in Tottenham's history has done, is put all the eggs in the basket to get the glory that the fans deserve? He was a fan at heart. He knows what it's like to be a Tottenham fan, all right? Because he understood.
Like our fans.
He's understood that's what needed to happen at this football club. But who cares if we finished 13th, 14th, or 17th? We weren't going to get relegated. We were safe by April. Everyone says, we could have been relegated. Let's be honest, if there was any serious chance of that, he would have obviously gone a bit more serious in the league. But the league was dead. We weren't going to go down. We were safe from relegation. So let's put all our eggs in that Europa League, play our first choice then. We could see from December to March, which we had our second choice, that it wasn't going to be good enough, right, in the Europa League to get results if we chopped and changed. So let's just go full strength from the Europa League. Let's prove that when we have our first choice 11, we're a bloody good team and we can play football and we can we can be a good team when we have our first choice there. And he bloody did it by winning the whole Europa League. He brought glory to this club for the first time in 17 years, first European trophy in 40 years. The players are behind him, all right? I think the majority of fans are now starting to support him as well. And I think as long as Romero said he will leave, if Ange leaves. So I think as long as we've got the players behind him, we've got momentum going into next season, I think he needs to stay.
Johnny, little early rebuttal. I've got some specific questions to ask each of you, but early rebuttal, mate. What's your take? Not a rebuttal, sorry. Not the time for rebuttals. What's your pitch for why Ange needs to go? Try and keep it within a couple of minutes.
I love the way he goes on that about the fans giving up the league in January. When he got pissed off with Manchester City when the Spurs fans wanted Arsenal, Man City, us to lose to Manchester City, where he didn't have any care about the game against Arsenal. Look, you've lost 38 games, right? Since November the 5th, 2023, you've lost 28 games, right? I hear all about the injuries, but we lost 16 games in 2024. He's the first manager to lose 4 games on the trot against Arsenal as a new manager. He's the first manager to lose 4 games on the trot as a Spurs manager against Chelsea. He's the first manager to lose the double against Crystal Palace. I think they haven't won at Spurs in 28 years. The worst points per game average in our history. 22 defeats at home. The first time in Premier League history that a club has lost 22 games and not got relegated. There's so much double talk, Sim, right? That's the thing I struggle with. The double talk of, we don't have enough games. First season, we don't have enough games. We've only got 41 games. I don't have enough games to get my point across. Second season, right, there's too many games. I don't have enough time to get my point across. You can't have it both ways. There's so much double talk with him. He said, we have the team ready and the squad ready to attack both the Premier League and the Europa League simultaneously. And then by January, he's telling us that he's given up. Well, if he gave up the league in January, can I have a rebate, please, and my money back for all the games that I went to, home and away, where he had no intention of really competing because it was all his eggs in the Europa League basket. So when fans like at Fulham were upset and said, Ange, what was that shit? And you went and you started attacking the fans saying, have some respect, right? No, you had no respect for us because you gave up the ghost. You've told us now. Why are you telling us now you gave up the ghost in January? Why didn't you tell us in January? And I would have saved my time and my effort and stopped going to the games where you had no interest in winning. Apparently, it's double talk. It's bullshit. It's just serve the purpose for the now, for the narrative. I will give Ange Postecoglou this, right? He won the trophy, and I respect that. And I congratulate him on that. But for his tactical nous, right, he doesn't have it, taking it forward. This has got Ten Hag vibes to me. And, you know, I'm not willing to take the risk. If he can't compete and be competitive in both the Europa League and the Premier League, how is he going to be in the Champions League and the Premier League? Have we got to wait until he loses another 10 games? On the spin before we act, then where?
Let me pause you there, Johnny, because it's a good segue, right? So I think we can all reflect on last season how we want to, right? Like I think that it's reasonable to sit there and buy into the idea that there's, you know, all that Tottenham fans have wanted for 20 years is a trophy. All that Tottenham fans have wanted for 40 years is a European trophy. The gravitas for me of the trophy, the size of the trophy we have, I think is disproportionate to the challenge it takes to win it. But regardless, it's no one's fault, least of all Ange's, who you have to play. But we are where we are. What we have is a manager that has done something that no one else has done, not Conte, not Mourinho, no one else, right? For a long time. And you have a group of players that have also outperformed the very best Tottenham players that have ever been at the club in our lifetimes, or most of our lifetimes. The question really isn't so much about whether or not there's justification or merit in what's been gone. The real debate is he the right guy going forward? Okay, that's the question we've all got to try and figure out. Not that any of our opinions matter. Obviously, Daniel Levy's going to have to figure that out for himself. But what I'd ask of you guys is, why do you feel that he is the right guy or the wrong guy to have what will hopefully be a bumper pay packet, a bumper transfer budget this summer? Do you think? Let's start with that. Right, let's start with that. Are you confident that the talent ID of the guy, when given last year's budget, when he insisted on certain players, Tim, again, I'll start with you. Are you, before we get into whether he can work with what he's got or what he's going to be given, are you comfortable knowing that we have to now not compete on the Europa League front, that I hope we can all agree is a much lesser standard of competition than what we're going to walk into next year? Are you comfortable and confident that Ange Postecoglou, with whoever else it is that's pulling the strings, can correctly identify and bring together a squad of players that can actually compete, so that Ange Postecoglou doesn't have the excuse of the squad not being good enough or fit enough or whatever else? Luck of injuries aside, is Ange, in your mind, has Ange shown you enough talent ID to get to the next level where we need to be able to march on all fronts next year?
Look, before I say I start my answer, what I just want to say is, yes, there have been mistakes made. He has admitted it, that he's made mistakes. Managers do make mistakes. Just because he gets something wrong doesn't mean he's rubbish and he's not good enough, or going forward he can't learn from those mistakes. First mistake was this summer. We were. It's obviously not just down to him. It was a club decision, but obviously he's agreed with it, and he defended it in various press conferences. Right? We went very young this summer. 3 teenagers: Gray, Udogie, and Berghvall. Right? And we only added Dom Solanke, which at the time I was looking at the squad and thinking, okay, I would like more experience, but I can understand the decision to really lower the age of the squad. But in hindsight, in the midst of what happened this season, we could have done with a hell of a lot more experience.
Sorry, you said he's admitted there was a mistake there. Has he admitted? He's admitted there was a mistake in the transfer policy?
No, he's admitted that the team need more experience. That's for me admitting a mistake in how we've gone about our transfer business, because we need more experience in the squad. He said it during the season. He said it just after the final. He said we need more experience. We need players who are going to be comfortable at that Champions League level to add into this squad. Before the season,
you're inferring an acknowledgement of a mistake there.
Sorry,
you're inferring that he's made an acknowledgement of a mistake.
Yeah, he said in January, we need to add more experience to this squad. That tells me that in the summer, right, when we only added teenagers, that maybe he agreed with at the time, but in hindsight, that was a mistake, I think.
Okay.
Look,
in your mind, is he wearing that, or is he saying that the club screwed up and he had to just eat someone else's
I think he's part of it. He's part of it. I think he agreed with it at the time, right? But it was a club decision. Everyone, look, all these things are not just one guy, right? We can agree on that. There's recruitment, there's board, whatever. And I'm sure he was part of it and he agreed with it. But I think as a club, I think there's been mistakes made. And I think when we had these injuries and we're playing Gray at centre back for 12 games like in a row, and with all these kind of things, we were playing Forster for a lot of it. And we had to bring in Kinsky in January. We're playing Ben Davies for a lot of it at centre back. Who, look, he's a good servant, but let's be honest, how many teams in the Premier League does Ben Davies get in at centre back? Not many. We're playing a lot of teenagers throughout the team. Obviously, Berghvall in second half of the season came good, but struggled to kind of adapt. Anyway, my point being is, I think there's been a lot of mistakes made from the transfer market. There's been a lot of mistakes made from the injury front. Again, he made those mistakes. I think that was his fault. Bringing those players back from Chelsea early, his fault. Yes, it's a club decision with the medical team, whatever, but he has final say, right? And if it goes wrong, it's on his head. It's on no one else's head when it goes wrong. As much as it's a club, I'm sure he doesn't make it in isolation. I'm sure he's speaking to Van de Ven, Romero, and the medical team. But he makes.
He did say that there's no one that comes into my team unless I have the final say. So
I have to say.
That's what I'm saying. He's his final say, so he has to take that decision, right? Again, managers make mistakes. It's not just every manager in the league makes mistakes. It's not like everyone is infallible. He made a mistake there. He made a mistake, and that cost us dearly for a lot of the season. But obviously, regardless of whether he made the mistake, we're still missing those players for a long time. He has admitted again during the season, at the start, he's made mistakes in how he with the players and pre-season. He said I don't know what he meant by it, but he said, we went too hard at the beginning of the season, all these different things, right? He's admitted mistakes. Now, what he's also admitted is he's changed things, how he's dealing with the players when they've come back. He's changed when Micky Van de Ven and Romero came back and how he had to manage them to keep them fit for the bigger games anyway, but how he had to manage that situation because they've been both out for 4 months. And I think since the players have come back in like February, yes, we have had some injuries, but I don't remember, correct me if I'm wrong, how many muscle injuries or injuries in training like hamstrings we were having early in the season? Have we had many of those since in that second half of the season? Not in my.
We went from the. We went from pillar to post, right? We went from the out of the cauldron into the fire. It was. We went from over rushing them back to not playing them at all for months. Micky Van de Ven,
right? Because he's being more careful with them, and he's learning. I think that he's learning.
Yeah, but is that not because he also sacrificed the Premier League, so it didn't matter by that point?
Because he was only saving the game.
I don't know, but I'm saying I think he's learning from those mistakes that he made during earlier season, which there was a lot, and that obviously contributed to the situation we're in, which with the injury situation and the player situation and the tactics as well. I think he's starting to. You can see adaptations, especially in Europa League games of late, but also in Premier League games. Not necessarily he's gone so well all the time, but in certain Premier League games as well, there's been adaptations in terms of tactics. Like we went to Villa away. I know we lost 2-0, but it wasn't just like everyone says. You only adapted in the Premier League. We lost. I know we lost at Villa, but it wasn't just like gung ho. It was again trying to be a bit smarter, trying to sit a bit deeper. I think at other points of the season he has tried to adapt, and I think those adaptations in the Europa League. You look at our how we played in the Europa League. It hasn't just been gung ho. Not just the United game where obviously it was pretty much parking the bus that second half. I agree, but the whole Europa League campaign. We've attacked well when we needed to. And I think he's starting to adapt his tactics, and I think he's learning from, again, a lot of the mistakes he's been making during the season. And I think with lessons learned, right, from during the season, he's learning from those mistakes. As well, when you come into this club, when you come into Tottenham, I've said this, like, managers like Mourinho and Conte and other managers have said on the record, I only learning about the problems as soon as I come in, right? Only when I come into this club have I learned about the issues that what it's really like to manage his football team. They've all said that they didn't understand the problems until they've come in. Ange now understands these problems. He's been here for 2 years. He's understanding what the issues are within the squad, who he needs, who he doesn't need. Any new manager coming in is going to have to go through that process of understanding what the problems really are at this football club. I mean, even within that chaos, let's be honest, no manager he's the only manager since Pochettino to last 2 full years, right? It's hard and it's chaotic to manage his football club. And even within that, he's got success. He's won a trophy. He's got success within that, and he finished 5th in his first season. I think for me, he's learning from his mistakes, from all of them. And yes, he has made those mistakes, and he has to take responsibility for that. But at the end of it, he's come away. The goal at the beginning of the season was a trophy and Champions League football. That was the goal, and he's got that.
Can I just say it? Hang on.
Johnny, just quickly, just give me 2 seconds here. One word answer, Sim, because I asked you the question, do you have the confidence whether or not Ange, if you give him the budget now to rebuild the squad in a division that can compete? You spoke about a lot of the mistakes that, like, essentially what you've just given over is like the blueprint for why Ange shouldn't be here because of all the mistakes he's made. In a one-word answer of all of those things, are you summarizing that by saying that you hope that he's learned, and therefore, yes, you hope that his talent ID this year is going to be better?
I think we've seen evidence that he's learned, not hope, is what I'm saying. And I think we can go forward next season, hopefully. Like, I don't think I'm hoping next season we're not going to be missing Romero and Van der Ven 4 months. I know it's happened this season, and I know Van der Ven happened also first season. But he's been on record that they've got a very special care now of Van der Ven. They've taken him to a running specialist. They've changed his running style. They've eased him back in, and hopefully that means he can stay fit for a long time. Also, hopefully we can get some support. So, maybe we can start resting him some games. But clearly, we've been very careful with him since he's come back into the team, and they've changed a few things, which is why we didn't see him for a few weeks, because they were implementing this new running style, so he doesn't have to put too much stress on his hamstrings. These kind of things, I'm saying, behind the scenes, he's learning, and I think there's evidence of him learning. And I think come next season, I'm hopeful. And look, that the only thing is when I think there's evidence of him learning, but all I can say for next season, I don't know, is I'm hopeful and I'm confident we're not going to have the same issues when it comes to like injuries and stuff as we did this season.
All right, fair enough. Johnny, same question to you, mate. I'm going to lay it up for you, Johnny. You can go for 5 minutes, mate. It's no problem. Johnny, same question to you. Has Ange Postecoglou demonstrated enough to you that he can, if given 200 million quid or whatever the budget is this year, that he can reduce the mistakes made last season and then create a squad that can compete next season on more difficult fronts?
And the answer for me is no. I don't feel he has learned, right? Last season, some of the cases, I mean, listen, we've got 5 wins in our last 27 games. 2 of those against Southampton and 1 is against Ipswich. We're not talking about a blip here. I understand the argument of the injuries. I totally get that, Sim, but that can only be accounted for a short period of time. And I did a tweet May last year, and I put losing out on the Champions League place was not about last night's defeat. It was Ange's refusal to change tactics and rotate. 5 defeats in our last 6 games, only led once at half-time in the whole of the year, and only 1 clean sheet in 20 games. And only 10 wins in our last 10 games, and those were against Luton, Burnley and Nottingham Forest. Now, that was last year, okay? That was the end of last season where we fell away dramatically, okay? Now, we heard all the excuses, we heard all the stories, and whilst I was willing to give him time, I thought he'd do well to last till Christmas. And what we've seen is a lot of double talk. What we saw is a manager who came in full of confidence, full of the talk. Everyone loved Ange, great chat. But that person's been replaced by a guy who seems to be like on the attack of anyone who asks a reasonable question to him. And that's because he's under a lot of pressure because of his double talk. I mean, not playing Jed Spence, not putting Jed Spence into the Europa League squad, and then claiming that he single-handedly brought him back from nowhere. is a hard one to swallow. I mean, he didn't even play him in the Carabao Cup game against Coventry, and he only came on as a sub for Destiny, and he's the guy that saved him in the 88th minute from a disaster, getting knocked out by Coventry. The Tamworth game, I mean, who wasn't watching in that 93rd minute when it looked like that guy was going to, I can't remember his name, was going to connect with that shot and put the ball in the net. Luckily for us, he misconnected. I just hear so much double talk. You know, I don't care. I'll get a job somewhere else, okay? Going on about the fans, okay? You don't attack the fans. You don't call out the fans. He's called out the fans in numerous occasions. For me, it's not just about the results. You know, be humble. Say, I'll put your hands up and say, you know, you made a mistake on a regular basis, or it wasn't right last night. But how many games have we watched and you hear his post-game analysis and you're thinking, what game is he talking about? What game is he talking about? We're not stupid. We're watching the same game as you. We're at the same game. I just think that this gives me Ten Hag vibes. I don't think his talent ID is superb. I don't think when I look at him over the last 2 years, what players he's progressed. Berghvall has progressed naturally on his own because I think what we've seen is natural progression since he arrived, getting used to the Premier League. I look at someone like Oliver Glasner, for example, over at Crystal Palace, and he had a player like Mateta who couldn't hit a barn door, and Glasner's come in and he's made him far better player. Ismail Sarr, another one who's going nowhere in his career. He's turned him around. I could list other players within that squad. And that's what you look for in a top coach. I don't believe that Ange Postecoglou is a coach. I believe he's a philosopher. I believe he has a philosophy. I don't believe he's a coach. I know he's not a coach because he's not hands-on. The other thing I find really strange, when you see most managers like Harry Redknapp or Pochettino, they have their whole team of backroom staff that they take everywhere with them. Nuno had it, and most coaches have it. Now, he didn't care who came. Montgomery and the guy from Hibs who got sacked from their job before they came to work for Ange and for us this summer. I found that really strange because how can you entrust, if you're not a hands-on manager, how can you entrust two strangers to get across your philosophy when you've never worked with them before? It just seems a strange thing. When we lost Chris Davis to Birmingham, who's had a fantastic season there, I feel like we lost something. We lost something there. We lost the head of medical as well in the summer because he believed that what Ange was doing was not sustainable from a medical point of view. We have a situation now where players, when you're playing a higher line sim, the amount of recovery runs now, because there's no offside flag instantaneously, they're constantly going backwards and forwards. So you're doing far more recovery runs than anybody else was doing in previously. But we've not adapted. I don't feel he's adapted. Do you remember at the beginning of the season says, I don't have the players to rotate? I mean, can you imagine if you're Jed Spence and you're hearing that?
Johnny, can I ask you a question? All right, let me ask you a question. Right, so I saw Sim put out a clip on Twitter, saying essentially that people that were kind of going Ange out, whatever, were a little bit unhappy, miserable. I think there was a phrase. Sim.
Let me clarify. No, I just want to clarify that quickly. My point wasn't that if you're upset with the season, that you have no right to. My point,
it was the game itself.
It was my point. If you're after that Brighton game, you're upset that we lost that game. Like, come on.
I hear you, mate. I knew that, and maybe my quote retweet was more broadly about Ange generally, but I would make the argument that, and I said I only did the quote retweet because I was on the back end of like incredible amount of abuse. When I first started streaming, basically saying thank you next, right? Like I can't buy in, because the one thing I think that Ange is like an A-star at is the words, right? The ability, when he comes out and says, I told them they didn't listen. And I saw like this pendulum swing of emotion towards Ange go from vehemently Ange out beforehand. Your brother was massively Ange out beforehand. I know you've always been Ange in, and I respect it. I was Ange in for the longest time until I started to kind of pay attention.
Until just before the final. Just before.
No.
It kind of was, right? Because it was about April time when I started to go, hang on a minute. I'm hearing what he's saying now, but like that's in direct contradiction to what he said here, there, and everywhere. And then so in that moment when I got back after Bilbao, I got back and I've started streaming again, and I was like, look, I've got to be honest, like I'm Ange out, like thank you, but next. And then I was getting all this bombardment, and I put the quotes up. I put the poll up saying, "Are you Ange in or Ange out?" And it was 85% Ange in. And a week before the game, it was 85% Ange out. And then it swung violently back towards Ange out again on the Sunday following the Brighton game, which is when I put that that kind of comment out. And so it wasn't like in any way aimed at you in reaction to your comments. It was more around like, I think that everybody right now in the fan base is riding on some crest of a wave based on emotion. And I feel like it's too important right now. Like, not that the fan base makes any difference. I'd hope that the fan base's opinions are not being considered when it comes to Daniel Levy's decision-making, because the fan base never knows what they want. Like the goalposts are moved every 5 seconds, depending on whatever's the most recent shit show or success. And so, like, for me, I just want to sort of gather where you guys are at with regards what it is that you do or don't like or love about Ange. For me, I am 100% in. I'm okay if the club decide to reward him with another year or another this season based on meritocracy. But where I will no longer be a subscriber is based on his words. And that to me is the one thing that I think most of the fan base that love him, they love him because they buy into the words, right? And he's a brilliant orator. And I just think that there's a long line of duplicity with the things that he said. Like he said, I told them they didn't listen. And that's referring to his, I was winning my second season. But Sim, he also said in the second season, a title run is on the cards, right? And he never mentioned that again.
He didn't say that.
He did say that.
No, I've seen the quote. I've seen what you think.
You've seen that version of the. You've seen that version.
What did he say? Like he said, no. Let's put this right. When the interviewer for the famous quote put him on the spot and said, you said before you usually win things in your second season, and he put his balls on the table and he said, I don't usually win things, I always win things. He was very definitive. And then she clarified and she said, does that mean you're confident this team is going to win a trophy in this season? And he said, didn't I just say that? Nothing's changed. Yeah, I just said that. So that's definitive. Very definitive.
It is, but did he not also
when he was asked about title, look, Ange is an ambitious guy. I'm sure he's always looking at the top. I'm sure he did want a title challenge, but it didn't happen this season.
Did he also not say though that top 10 and a trophy was not a good year?
Yeah, correct. And I'm sure him himself, obviously he's trying to get the fans on side and everything, but the way this season went, he had to do what he had to do in March. But of course, top 10 and a trophy for him isn't a good. I'm sure he still agrees with that.
Didn't he describe what just happened last week as unbelievable, unprecedented?
And it is. Is it not? Is that a lie?
No, it's not unprecedented. This club
is for 40 years. It is in my lifetime. In my lifetime, it's unprecedented. In my lifetime, it is. In my lifetime, it is.
Unprecedented means it's never happened, right? Can't go for both. He said, I can't go for both things, right?
Johnny,
Sim, you've had your say for a bit. Let me get in right now. Sim, I'm just saying, right? Basically,
roll those eyes, Sim.
Pochettino didn't have for 500 days, had no transfers for 500 days, right?
Yeah.
He got no support. He finished fourth and got a Champions League final, right? Did he win it? No. Granted. But what I'm saying is for Ange to come and say and insult me and say you can't do both is an insult. And let me tell you something. To all the fans, I've listened a long time, Sim, right? To all the fans,
actually, Johnny, you both had a long answer there. You both had long answers. Let's be fair.
I think you play it back. You're here. So Sim, right? What I'm saying is, when you go away, like Ben and you go away. Had you known all that time that he'd given up the ghost, Isn't it not right to feel a bit pissed off and a bit aggrieved that we're now finding out, right, in May, the end of May, that in January he gave up the ghost? I find that a bit insulting. Do you not understand why the fans, certain fans, not all, but do you not find certain fans will find that galling?
I understand that. I'll get into that in a minute. In terms of what you were saying about Poch and he was able to go to both, first of all, that was his 5th season, right? We'd already established a team. We're already a well-settled team, a very good team, by the way. The likes of the best striker in the league. We had Son, we had an unbelievable pairing, whatever. We had a phenomenal team. Understand? Look, Poch did a brilliant job, fantastic job, right? But he couldn't go for both. When we were in that Champions League run, we fell away in the league. Am I wrong? Right? I know we scraped top 4 because we had a brilliant first half of the season that season, but we fell away completely, very bad. We didn't win.
Isn't that your argument for why season? Didn't I hear you make the argument on your channel saying that actually when you compare over the 2 seasons, that season 1 he finished 5th, season 2 17th, so and a cup, so it's not that bad. But isn't
I'm saying overall that's a really good
but when you said like we fell off, but we had a great start to the season in Poch's era, isn't that exactly the same thing as what happened in Angie's season 1?
What?
We had a fantastic start to the season.
And fell off.
No, but we had more than that, in my opinion. We had a very good 10 games, but we also had a very good period in the middle, which everyone glosses over, right?
No, well, I got to pick you up on that, mate. I mentioned this to you I said this to you on your chat. I heard you and Sava going at it yesterday, and Sava made the point that it was the first 10 games were great, 26 points out of 30, and then the last 28 games, it was horrendous. And you said, actually, let's micro break this down. And you said there was the following 5 games after the 10 that had the injury crisis, right? And then there was 16 games, I think you said, or 15 games. I think it was 16 games where it was 1-10, drawn 3, lost 3. Yeah. And then the last 7 games that were an absolute shit show. But then you justified that shit show, like the 5 after the 10. You said, but we had to play the top 5 or the top 6. 5 of them we had to play away from home. Right. Okay, but if you're dismissing the value of the final 7 by saying that we had to play the last,
I'm just adding context.
We lost
I will then hang on a second, Johnny. I will then add the context of saying if you are undermining the final to that season by saying the reason why we lost 7 was because we had to play the big 5 away from home, then in that 16 game period where you're saying that we had a wonderful run, we didn't have to play anybody tough because we saved them for the last 7 games of the season.
You can't play 16 games in the Premier League and not play anyone tough. We had some good wins in there as well.
We didn't have to play the top 5
from home. Right. This is still the Premier League. My
point is that you're fine, like you're saying there was the front 10, which was brilliant before anybody knew what Ange was about, and we got away with one. Then there was the 5 then was the 5 losses which you defended as that was the injuries. Then there was 16 awesomes where you don't give any context, and then the last 7 you bring the context of we had to play the 5 games. So I'm saying, well, the context of the previous 16 that you say was something to celebrate. There wasn't any of the big teams to play away from home.
I'm not saying there's something to celebrate. I'm just saying people always say in that first season, just the first 10 games, and it was a shit show. I'm saying it wasn't just like that. Okay, there was some consistency for a good period of that season, which we were actually showing top 4 form. And by the way, right, we weren't supposed to be this well-oiled, amazing team in this first season. We just lost Harry Kane. It was always going to be a difficult season. Everyone said top 6, top 7 was going to be a good season. And what I'm saying is, right, when I break it down like that, I'm showing just context to that season. My point is, I always hear people say first 10 games, then it was shit. That is just not the case. We had that 10-game period. We had a little block of injuries where we struggled. Although, if you actually look back at those games, we actually played quite well in a few of them. We were just got a bit unlucky. But anyway, we lost 4 of those 5 games. The one we didn't lose was the one we didn't lose was a 3-3 draw away at Man City. It was not a bad result. But anyway, we lost 4 of those next 5 games. And then we had a really good block for 16 games, which is nearly half the season, right?
But we didn't have to play any tough games away from home.
Villa away is a tough game. We won 4-0. That's a tough game. We had some tough. Look. Okay, maybe the games were easier than the end of the season for sure, but you can't have a block of 16 easy games. It's not possible in the Premier League.
So how did we lose?
It's not possible. And so then how did we lose? Wait, Johnny. For those 16 games, it was top 4 form in his first season for a good block of that season. We then come into the final stretch. We've got an unbelievably hard run. Now, we shut the bed. Don't get me wrong. We were getting battered left, right, and centre.
5 defeats in our last 6 games. 5.
We lost to Chelsea away. We lost to Liverpool away.
And this is when Ange got upset. The funny thing was,
don't get me wrong. I was fuming at that. We bottled it, and
that was also the period in which Andrew said, "Wait until our." Didn't Andrew also say, "Wait until our best players come back"?
Correct.
Yeah. When?
And then when they did come back, nothing changed. It got worse.
And what happens when he turned around? He was asked,
okay, but it was
how important. When he asked Sim, when he was asked, how important is this Arsenal game? It's no different to me. It's the same as any other game, right? I want to win it, right? We lost. He didn't care. But look how much he cared when we lost against Man City, right? He cared so much about that, he attacked the fans and the fan base, right? We'd lost all those games, and yet he chose to, after that run, to attack the fans, which was bang out of order, calling us out, right? Yet he cared about the Man City game, but he didn't care about the Arsenal game because he didn't understand the rivalry. This is a guy who's managed Glasgow Celtic, and he doesn't understand rivalry. Come on.
Yeah, he's probably guilty of not reading the room, and I criticised him.
Actually, Sim, do you know what, mate? When he said that, I actually agreed with him. Right? I thought it was really poor that top four was on the line, and we were more caring about Arsenal. Where I have a problem, and like I always pull back to, is I know that the words are just words, and I hear the argument that every manager is going to say and defend themselves through the dictionary. But what I have a problem with is that when he said those things and essentially called all Tottenham fans that felt the way that a lot of people did, I didn't, but the deprioritization of Manchester City was a disgrace, which is what we can infer from what he was saying. He was surprised around the priorities. That's not a winning culture, yada, yada, that sort of thing, right? I mean, choose the words of how you want it, but that's the kind of message he was sending. And yet then this year, we didn't know at the time, but we know after the fact, if we're going to take him on his word, that he deprioritized not just one game, but essentially 18. And that to me is a galling reality, especially when, as Johnny pointed out earlier, I paid 1,500 quid for my season ticket. Should I be asking for half my season ticket back because it was deprioritized?
Okay, so wait, guys, John and Sean. First of all, he said after the transfer window, which is the end of January, that's when he said he made the decision when we were out of both cups and the league season had gone, right? Are we saying, Johnny and Sean, that was the wrong call?
Honestly,
you're saying it's the wrong call.
Yeah,
after winning the Europa League,
it's outrageous. You can't deprioritize a cup. You can deprioritize the Carabao Cup if you've got enough. If you're Manchester City and you have a squad of players that aren't going to play every week, and you've got a strong enough team to be able to deprioritize yet still get to the final and win it. You can't deprioritize the league. That is your bread and fucking butter. I'm sorry.
If you've got nothing to play for, and your best hope of going back into Europe is that Europa League.
There was plenty to play for by January. There was plenty to play for.
There was the league season. Look at the league table by February.
£3 million a position. £3 million a position. Right? Look, Ben, you know.
And so, Johnny, do you care more about that than winning the Europa League?
No, I don't. But listen, what I care about is, you, Ben, myself, and many others go and travel for hours, right?
Yeah.
To go to an away game. And I find it really deeply upsetting, like, when I go there, and I find this out now at the end of the season. I also found it upsetting when, what was going on at Chelsea and the fans, what the subs he was making, and they said, you don't know what you're doing. And then he cups his ear. His ear. Disrespectful.
I said Ange out after that. I said I was Ange out after that moment.
So
wait, what? What's that?
I said on that for a few days I was Ange out. I was very angry at him.
Yeah, because
I was very angry at him.
Because look, listen. Can I make something very?
No, so I understand your anger. I was fuming with what he did.
Can I just say, right? And this is very important, right? Whatever manager. Now, I never wanted Ange Postecoglou, right? There's no secret about that. But I was willing to give him a chance. I want whoever is in the club to succeed. And that includes Ange Postecoglou. The fact that I don't believe that he can take us further is a different issue. Even a player who I don't particularly rate, I want them to succeed. And even despite whatever I'm saying here, if the club, whatever reason, decide, right, that he's going to be the man, I hope he is the man.
Johnny.
Can I just?
Wait. So sorry. So because I've got sort of 15 minutes left with you guys, right? So I just want to move forward because we can rehash the history of the last two seasons as much as we want. But the real kicker here is why is it that on any given day, you are at any given poll, 65% are Ange in, sometimes it's Ange out, whatever, right? It swings and roundabouts. The community, the fan base is so divided based on essentially two variables. One is he's earned it, right? He's earned the chance to stay again, or the other is I can't ignore the cup, right? I can't ignore the league. Johnny, I'll start with you on this one, mate.
Yeah.
Like, is there any what is the argument, as much as you may like pitch both sides, but leaning into one way you want to go, why Ange Postecoglou, what has Ange Postecoglou given you in terms of confidence or otherwise, or no confidence, that he is the guy that in a world where we don't have the Europa League, and let's be entirely honest, the gravitas of that tournament is massive, but the challenge to win it is massively disparate from the actual accolade of winning it, right? Like, we didn't have to beat anybody, or maybe one team that would have finished above 15th in the Premier League. Yeah. So next season, we don't have that luxury. We've got to fight on the Premier League, the Carabao Cup, the FA Cup, all of whom we've got to beat: Liverpool, Arsenal, City, Chelsea, all that shit, right? And then in the Champions League, if we want to be in the Champions League next season after next, we either have to finish 4th or 5th, or we have to win the Champions League. So does Ange Postecoglou give you the confidence that he can do it with regard, and hoping that he's got a better squad? But is he tactically superior to those around him, that even with a better squad and with fewer injuries, that his tactical diversity and adaptation is strong enough, Johnny, to be able to get us to 4th or 5th in the league?
Gary O'Neill exposed him on Monday Night Football. He laid out the tactics. This is how I beat Spurs, right? 2024, January, I think it was. And everyone's used that blueprint since. You don't lose 38 games having great tactical nous. You don't lose 22 games in a season having great tactical nous, okay? And what's worrying me is, what is he deciding now he's going to prioritise? Can I know in advance, if you're going to prioritise the league, you're not going to bother with the Champions League, fine. If you're going to prioritise with the Champions League, and not bother with the league, can I find out in advance? Because I don't want to waste my time and my money going all over the world supporting this guy, because I expect to win every game. I go in hope that we win every game. I don't expect to win every game, and I can handle losing, right? Because that's part and parcel of football. But what are you going to sacrifice next year? What you got? What is it? What is going to be the tournament you're going to say, well, not for me? I don't think, for me, if he drops the mic now, I think it's a great way to go out, and I will respect him for it. I just don't think personally that he can take us. I sit there and I've asked many people, excuse me, what player or what players has he progressed in the last 2 years, do you feel? And people normally struggle to give me that answer because there aren't many. Maybe Kulu's moved into the middle more and he's showing a bit more. But other than that, there's not much there. I don't think that he's tactically flexible enough. I think a lot of what's happened, especially in the Europa League, was forced upon him. And I actually said to everybody, I think these injuries are a blessing in disguise in the final, because he'll be forced to play a pragmatic style, counter-attacking football. And quite honestly, what I was crying about originally, I thought was going to turn out to be to our benefit. Yeah, sure, Sever out. Yeah, we're all out. But look, I would be delighted. Look, I turned around and I said, despite me being Ange out, if he turns around and he wins the Europa League, I will come on to any YouTube channel and I would say, congratulations, well done, right? And for delivering on your promise. Okay, but he also said quite a few other things. But like you said, Sean, he's delivered on one of them, and he gambled the house. He gambled our club.
Yeah, he put it all on red, and it came up red. It came up red.
Right, and it came up right. And I put it to you, what would have happened? What would have happened with our one shot on target and our 27% possession and the lowest stats ever recorded in the final? What would have happened had he gambled it all and it failed? Where would we be when he left this club? And that's all I'm saying. Luckily for us, we're in a much stronger position due to that win, but it could have easily have gone wrong on that night. Very easily. Yep. And we would have been having a very different conversation. So I'm not going to let one game mask everything else.
He said as much.
When you have a gaping wound, when you have a gaping wound, right, you don't put a sticking plaster on it in the hope that it won't peel off. Because when it does invariably peel off, you're going to be left with a festering wound that will take a long time to heal.
Band-aid over a bullet wound, 100%. Sim, you have to work with me here, mate. Like, he did say, if you thought I was a bad manager on yesterday, you shouldn't think I'm a good manager tomorrow because of one game of football. But a lot of the fan base have pivoted in that direction. I'll ask you the same question again, though. Is he deep down? I know you've stuck with him the whole time. I know you have. I'm not accusing you of someone that's a flip-flop.
It's him for it.
100%. Do you think, though, that the wave of people that have joined your side of the argument, are they Johnny-come-latelys because they're riding the crest of an emotional wave? And deep down, do you actually think that he is the guy that can lead us into a respectable, I'm not saying win it, but a respectable campaign in the Champions League and also get us back up into the top 5 next season?
Yeah, I think he can be. I think he can be. I think we've already seen that in a league season he can get us into. I know it's one game a week, but he's already finished 5th in a league season. So we have seen he's capable of getting of having a good league season. Now this season was obviously a mishmash of problems. But in terms of what you're first saying, do I believe? So what's about fans? What was the question?
Yeah, I'm saying like the wave of fans that have come across to your way of thinking. Are they just emotionally attached right now because they're? As I said this on a tweet, not the same tweet as you, but I said, like, you know, if you're looking for someone who tells you what you want to hear and makes you feel happy and warm inside and also gives you the best night of your life, it's not just a football manager at Tottenham that can do that. A stripper can do that as well, right? But do you really want to marry a stripper? Or should you get home and go and say, I love you to my wife, to your wife? You know what I mean? I just feel like, I think that a lot of fans
I agree with you. A lot of fans have probably switched due to emotion. That's probably fair. And I think a lot of fans who I've seen online were very much, my own brother was very much Ange out before the final and has flipped after the final. But I did say to them before, I was very consistent. I said, if we win that final, you're going to feel very different about this manager. And he was denying it. No, he's going to be, I want him gone regardless. But I told him, you're going to feel very different because he's going to be the one that's broken the streak. He's going to be the one that is broken, has won our first European trophy in 40 years. He's going to break that back. And that is significant, how big that is for this football club. It's not something just to gloss over, oh, it's just a cup run. What I hate, and I'm sorry, you two guys, and I love you, and I hear a lot of Tottenham fans, it was yesterday on the debate Alex and Savage did the same thing, diminishing the achievement that we have achieved. Oh, it's a weak Europa League. Look who we played. Oh, it's a nothing competition. It's you're Sean saying the gap between the gravitas and the quality is massive.
True though, right?
Well, why is it different to any other year? Why? We have
because the teams don't drop down from the Champions League.
In this competition, you've got the 4th best team in La Liga. You've got the 3rd best team in the Bundesliga. You've got the 5th and 6th best teams in Serie A. You've got the 5th and 6th best teams in Liga.
And we only had to play one of them.
Doesn't matter. They were in this. Why didn't they win it? They were in this competition. They were in this competition. We did have play the 3rd team in the Liga.
Are you genuinely suggesting that this competition in its current format is as difficult to win as it was in its previous version?
It's maybe not as difficult, but it's still bloody difficult.
It's not easy. Significantly
It's not
difficult.
easy. It's not easy.
Carrier bag.
You expect the Europa League to be. These are the kind of teams you have to play. Roma,
well, then the gravitas shouldn't be what it is.
It is, and it deserves to be. It's a good.
I know. I hear you. It is what it is. It is what it is. I'm not undermining it. I'm not undermining it. It's not Ange's fault. It's not Ange's fault.
You're acting as like all these Tottenham fans acting like you don't know who you support. You don't know who you are. Like we've been embarrassing ourselves.
I think
many years.
I'm not. But
we have been favourites many times for this competition. This isn't the first time we've been favourites.
When was the last time we were favourites? When was the last time we were favourites?
Under Mourinho, we were favourites. Under Pochettino, we were favourites.
No, we weren't.
And we didn't get. Yes, we were. Yes, we were.
At the same time, we didn't finish 17th in the Premier League those years. No other previous man, no other prime. Because listen, the point is,
this is my point. We keep saying, but he didn't win, but we didn't win the competition because we're always prioritising the league. He's the first one.
You're deprioritising your bread and butter. You can't avoid those things.
We both.
Well, we did, and it was the right decision. How many times have we bemoaned managers for resting players in the cups? How many times? It's happened year after year. We've gone out.
Are you okay next year? Are you okay next year, Sim? Are you okay with it? Are you okay as a perennial achievement? Now that we've got to the state with the world of football as it is, where 3 teams come up and they go back down, there is essentially zero relegation threat for teams the size of Tottenham Hotspur. Are you okay on that basis of deprioritising the Premier League every year and giving a shit from August until April just so that you can get into the position where you might win a
that's not the point. That's not the point.
That's the inference. That is the inference.
My point is in the position. Obviously, I want us to do on the league. Obviously, I want a good league campaign, but I understand why this league campaign got derailed. And when it came to these players coming back, obviously. If it was a different situation, we weren't managing these players, and these players like Romero and Van der Ven and all the players coming back couldn't really play 2 games a week. He had to make a choice. He had to make a choice, and he chose.
You hit the nail on the head, mate. It doesn't matter, right? Next summer, if we are in the last 16 of the Champions League, or we've somehow managed to scrape through, we finish 10th in the Champions League, and we go and beat some team that's finishing 18th or 20th or whatever in the Champions League, we managed to get ourselves through to the last 16. At that point, whether we have injuries or otherwise, we might as well bench Romero and Van der Ven and never play them apart from when we have to beat Inter or PSG or whatever else. That's
not what I'm saying. He had to make that choice this season. He had to, because when he's managing them, they can only play a certain amount. They're only fit enough to play that 1 game a week. So that's my point. He had to make a choice. Hopefully next season he doesn't, because we're in a different situation. They're not coming back from these. They're not perennially coming back from.
He's won over 65% of the fan base who said, who gives a fuck about the Premier League? It's all about trophies.
Yeah, this season, correct, because it was gone. Who gave a fuck if we finished 10th or 17th? At that point, correct. At that point, correct. Next season will be different. I'm hanging my hat on that. It's going to be a different situation. We're not going to be...
So if we're 6th in the Premier League next year, should he be, and he has to make a decision around what to prioritise, should he prioritise the Champions League?
Should he play his strongest team in the Champions League knockout? Hell yeah, he should. What are you talking about?
So he's prioritized. So he's not so he should deprioritize, because he's already said, I'm going to deprioritize something because I can't do it on all fronts.
This season, I can't do it on all fronts. He had to.
He didn't have to.
He was managing the situation. These players couldn't play 2 games a week at that point.
This is the point that you're missing, bro. This is the point you're missing. The only reason why we won the cup is because it wasn't because of deprioritizing and picking players. It was because of a tactical pivot. It was Angeball. It's who we are, mate. Gets thrown out the fucking window for the quarterfinals, the semi-finals, and the final. But the next day, when we're playing back in the Premier League again, we're back to Angeball.
What are you talking about?
He deprioritized his philosophy. That's what he deprioritized. No, he not the tournament. He deprioritized his philosophy, mate. And that's what pisses me off, is that we spent 2 years hearing this is the fucking hill that I'm going to die on.
I'm not for
we don't change.
It's who we are,
when it mattered, when his job was on the line, all that shit went out the window.
Correct.
So why did we have to put up with it for 2 years?
That's who we are, mate.
He's trying to instill a way of playing and a philosophy into this team. But when it comes to the crunch games, if it need be, he can change it. That's absolutely fine. And all this stuff in the Europa League, it's no Angeball. It's not true.
Yes, he deprioritized with his philosophy, bro. The only thing he deprioritized was his philosophy.
He deprioritized his philosophy.
Yeah, 100%.
What does that mean?
Angeball went out the fucking window as soon as
he didn't. On the line. No, it didn't. I don't know if you watched the RZ at home, or Frankfurt at home, Bodo at home. We played some bloody good football, and we played attacking football, and we went after teams. Yes, we did. Yes, we did. If you watch those games back, we played some. No, we did. I'm saying the home games. The home games I'm talking about, not the away games.
Why can't he do more? Why can't he? Why couldn't he park that?
He has tried it. It failed miserably. Probably a lot of the time because we haven't had our first choice defenders there.
How
when
can
we
you?
went to Anfield. We went to Anfield in the second leg. We got pummeled. But did we play good? Did we try and play good football? No. We tried to park the bus. We tried to park the bus.
Can you tell me how we managed to rest players before Southampton, before Leicester and Ipswich games in Europe, so the players would be ready, and yet we lost both the games to Ipswich and Leicester, having rested players before the games? I mean, what is that? What is that?
That's a shit show. That's not good. I'm not going to defend that.
What I'm saying, Sim. That's
so what? He needs to be sacked because of that.
No, I'm just saying. No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying there's a lot of double talk here from Ange.
What double talk?
Because, like, how can you say, I've had to rest and I've taken the decision? No, you didn't, because you rested those main players for those viewed lesser games, and yet you brought back your main team for Ipswich and Leicester, and you got beaten in both of them at home.
Okay, yeah. That was what you were talking about earlier in the season.
And then after the Ipswich game, he came out and said, when he was asked about the loss, he said, I don't want to focus on those losses in isolation right now. My priority is making sure I've instilled the message. A message which hasn't landed in 18 months. A very simple message.
Okay, right? So I understand that was a terrible result. What's your point?
No, I'm focusing on the mantra of the man. Like I'm with you on as much as like things happen in football, but what my point about Ange Postecoglou is the A star part of his. If you're sitting there going, let's look at Xavi, right? What are the benefits of Xavi? This, and this. What's the benefits of Ange? What's the weaknesses of Ange? For me, the major one benefit is he has the word. He can put the words in the right order and invoke a reaction ahead of a massive game, right? 100%. Can't take that away from him. But when you walk through that Overton window, you can't come back. Once you see through it, you can't unsee it. And for me, when I hear things like after 18 months, I'm not worried about the game in isolation. I'm worried about the message landing. Sorry, bro, there's something wrong with the message if you haven't landed it in 18 months. And then I hear things like after the fact, the reason why the league went so shit was because we essentially deprioritized it. When last season he said finishing 10th and winning a trophy is not a good season, but this year he's taking credit and saying that finishing 17th was part of the Grandmaster plan. The guy is a bullshit.
No. You're misunderstanding.
You can't buy into this bollocks.
You're misunderstanding. You're misunderstanding.
Well, when you say everything, when he says everything, and he lands right on one thing and then expects you to believe that and remember that and forget everything else.
Wasn't part of a Grandmaster plan. Him saying, right, we've had the reason the league, I don't know if the reason the league season got completely derailed wasn't because he threw it, it's because the injury crisis was 12 players for 3 months. That completely derailed the league season. Then come when the players started getting trickled back and he had to manage these players who've been out for a long, long time. A lot of them been out for 3-4 months. They can't just come back and play every game and be as fit as anything. You had to manage these players. At that point,
Bournemouth, a better manager managed to get it through, right? Bournemouth managed to get through their injury crisis. They had more injuries last
season. And also they fell off in the second half of the season. But anyway, there's a different situation. Playing one game a week. They play, but they're not got European football. You had European football.
Didn't they win 13 out of 16 during their injury crisis?
Sorry?
Didn't they win 13 out of 16 during their injury crisis?
I don't know. Yeah, they had a good run. I don't know which players got injured. It was
during their injury crisis. And they fell off when the injuries came back.
As important as our players, was the injury crisis as long as our injury crisis. Do they have European football? There's a whole different situation. Notwithstanding, he did brilliant. Fair play to Irola, but it's a completely different situation. Okay, and when he got the players back, they fell off. Why did they fall off? If when the players came back, doesn't make sense. Like, are you saying
they had nothing more to play for
when the players come back? Is that what we're saying?
They had nothing more to play for towards the end. Let me ask this.
So that's an excuse. That's fine. And what do we have to play for in the league?
I want to ask you this, guys.
Can I just say something, Sean? 1 second, right? 1 second. What I wanted to say was what Sim was talking about there. I love it. Sim, just to let you know, right?
Brilliant debate.
We all love each other, right? Look, Sim, I just wanted to say to you, you're talking about his philosophy and all the rest of it and how, we played a different game, right? So Australian journalist Vince Ruggeri, right? in the biography said, like, this is a quote from Poch, as a coach, when I'm watching the game, I'm just not at all comfortable when the opposition have the ball. He said, I don't want to ever be in a situation where I'm watching the opposition working us around the pitch or looking for space. Even our defensive work doesn't stray from what our core belief is. We want to be the team always that has the ball. Now, what happened to that? What happened to that? Right?
It was finals are different. They're a tense affair.
Oh, no, but it wasn't just the finals. I hear what you're saying about the final, but it wasn't just the final, was it, Sim? You know?
No, it was 2 legs. How would happen? We would play the home leg. We'll go at the teams. We'll get a lead, go to the away leg, and manage it differently. That's what happened. And it's a 2-legged affair.
Until we got into the Premier League, and then he tried to revert back to type. So what I'm saying
not always. No, not always.
Double talk. There's a lot.
Let me ask you.
When we played West Ham, we played Villa, when we played some other teams, it wasn't just gung ho. It wasn't just reverting back to type. We didn't win, but people just say because we didn't win, we played the same way. It's not true. If you look at how we played, it's different. Okay, just because we didn't win doesn't mean we played the same way. Every loss is just Ange ball. I hate this. Every loss is Ange ball. Every time we get results because he played Jose ball.
Welcome to my world, bro. Welcome to my world. Every loss is Daniel Levy's fault. Every win is luck, fortune, or someone else's responsibility. Welcome to my world, bro. Let me ask you this, guys. Last question.
Ange ball died 18 months ago, mate.
Last question. This is a chance for us all to meet in the middle here, right?
Yeah.
Is there a name, a managerial name that might be linked with us in the next couple of weeks where, Sim, you would sit there and say, don't mind that. I'll take that. And I'll extend that. I'll let Sim go first. And then, Johnny, I'll ask you as my counter.
Don't you dare say Sam Allardyce, Sim.
Hang on. Johnny, 1 second. Is there Johnny? I'll let Sim go first on there. Is there a manager that might make you say, you know what, fuck it, Ange can go. I'd rather have him. And Johnny, is there a guy or is there a shortlist that is so vacant of value where you would sit there and say, actually, if it's that guy or if that's the best we can do, then I might actually just rather stick with Ange Postecoglou. Sim, I'll let you go first.
Look, obviously, I do want Ange to stay, but if Tottenham do make a decision, they want to move on, they want to go in a different direction, and they want to just completely change it up. The managers I want an outstanding candidates. That's what I'm looking at. I'm not looking at Iraola. I'm not looking at Marco Silva. I'm not looking at Frank. These are good managers. Don't get me wrong. I like them, right? They're good in their own right. And I'm sure even if they came here, maybe they could do a good job. I'm just saying, I don't want a manager who's coming here with inexperience, not managing the Champions League before, and not having, we were letting go of a guy who's got a European trophies. I don't want to just sign someone who's got a mid-table finish in the Premier League as his highest achievement. That's not for me. Anyway, one name, Simone Inzaghi. Obviously, he's a fantastic manager. Now, why I like Inzaghi? First of all, I know he plays a back three, but he plays great football, really good. It's not like Conte back three, all right? It's free-flowing, really, really great football. They score lots and lots of goals. It is defensively solid as well. But what I love about him is he makes a budget work. He works really well in a very tight budget. Inter Milan, for years, they've been selling good players for lots of money, signing players on free transfers and very cheap deals, and making water out of wine, making wine out of whatever the bloody saying. Right, he's very good, like Çalhanoğlu on a free, dumb freeze.
He's going to Saudi Arabia for 25 million quid a year, so you can write him off.
Inzaghi, okay, but he would be one. Gasperini, I like him from Atalanta. He's apparently about going to be available. Yeah. He's one. I think he's done a brilliant job. Again, similar to what I'm saying about Inzaghi, very good at rejuvenating talents who people have written off. Good attacking.
And for an old boy, he's very good at working with youth.
Yeah, very good at working with young players and plays, most importantly, brilliant attacking football. And Atalanta are one of the best teams in the Serie A to watch. However, I'm sure if he comes from Premier League, people are going to say he's naive, blah, blah, blah. They'll throw all the same things they throw at him that they did at
What about Xavi?
Xavi, look, it's hard.
If Tottenham were linked with Xavi, would you be like, I'll sacrifice my stake into Ange and I'll pump it into?
I wouldn't. Look, I'm not going to lie. It's going to be hard not to be excited about something like Xavi just because of the name he is. But obviously, he went to Barcelona, won the league. It was a weird one. He won the league, and then they said he was going to stay, and then he didn't stay. I don't know what happened with that. Like, he signed a contract, and then they reneged it. Look, The reason I like Inzaghi and I like Gasperini is because they've got a proven track record of not having to spend millions and getting the best out of really good talent. Xavi, I don't know. He's been at Barcelona, La Masia. He's got the world's best, right? He's got the creme de la creme. If he comes to Tottenham, he doesn't have that. Is he going to expect, our players to be Xavi and to be the best and the best? Or, is he going to expect that? Or is he going to work with what he has? That's what I'm worried about with someone like Xavi.
For you, it's Inzaghi who's going to Saudi, Gasperini who's looking to retire, or Ange. That's your stake.
Or if we can convince a big tooth German to come, who's free at the moment.
Fair enough. Johnny, I'll let you land on who you'd like to come in, but also, as I said, answer the question. If we start going down to the levels, as I say, if Gasperini's retiring, if Xavi's not around, not interested. If Glasner, for example, has said that he's 99% staying at Palace, do we get down to a certain level where you say, actually, on that basis, let's not roll the dice, let's stick with Ange?
Yeah, if we get down to Neil Warnock, I'm all for keeping him. Listen, look, I was a big fan of Xavi, but as the season's gone on, I've looked at it slightly different, funny enough, because I look at what Hansi Flick has done since he took over from Xavi, and I think he's made that team far better. He switched Rafinha from the wide left and played him through the middle, revolutionised his team. And I look for that in a manager. I look for a manager that's going to change shit up and improve players and make players better. I like Vincenzo Italiano at Bologna. I've mentioned him quite a few times. The only thing I worry about is that as good a job as he's done, he won them their first trophy, Sim, in 50, 60 years, whatever. And the only thing is I worry he's temperamental and he could end up strangling Daniel Levy after a few weeks. So that one might be a bit troublesome. I'd like Xavi, but Italiano, I do like Iriola, can't deny it. He has improved players. He's got very good talent ID. He was involved in signing Hoisin and Kirkes. And so from that point of view, I like him. I think it's very important, whoever we bring in, I'm sure you guys can agree on this, or we can agree on this, we mustn't flip-flop on styles. And what I mean by that is we cannot bring in a pragmatic manager now. It has to be a forward-thinking manager playing progressive football. Otherwise, we're just flip-flopping. We're doing what Spurs have always done, back and forth with styles. So
fair enough.
I think Frank is probably the unsexiest manager out there that most Spurs fans would turn their nose up. But most people would. But I think tactically, he's a very astute manager, and he probably was surprised a few people. But I think it's a difficult one. I mean, I'd like Nagelsmann. Listen, my original three when Conte left was Arne Slot, Gallardo, and Amorim. Okay, we're going back 2.5 years now. I think Nagelsmann. We're not going to get the England manager here. I think he's going to have to pay money. Is there going to be a left field Fagioli? Is it the Ajax, the ex-Ajax?
Yeah, fuck that. Like, if you're gonna gamble with him,
I'm just saying, right? There are some up and coming coaches which they might look at, but I think if you're going to go into the Champions League, you've got to go with someone with some sort of track record. And can I just say to you, Angie's track record in Europe with Celtic was absolutely abysmal, right? It was abysmal. And I don't think, when you look at you tally them all up, we lost to AZ, we lost to Galatasaray, and we didn't really play anyone. So, I don't know how good Ange will be against the likes of the Barcelonas, the Real Madrids, and the Inter Milans in the Champions League. I'm not sure he's savvy enough. So I would like a really top coach. And I mean a hands-on coach, not a philosopher.
I hear you, mate. I hear you, buddy. All right, guys, we're going to leave it there. There's a couple of super chats. I want to say massive thank you to Sim and Johnny for battling that one out. Absolutely fantastic. The comment section was a little bit brutal to start with, but came around. In the end, I think Sim won people over. It was actually an interesting swing. Interesting
Sean,
swing.
I just want you guys to remember, season 3 is always better than season 2.
No,
Come on.
Season 3 got cancelled because the script was bullshit.
Listen, TV might have better season 3s, but I'd be hard pushed to find more than 5 examples of trilogies that are better than the sequel. Let's be entirely honest. Super Spurs TV, Blaine Devlin, you're an absolute legend. What do you come in with here? He says, do I smell a charity blue collar boxing match arranged for various Spurs YouTubers to resolve our differences? I mean, that'd be interesting. I'd rate myself a little bit, I reckon. Trophies go to getting Sean a weekend getaway with Helga. That bitch never answered my text. Never talking about her ever again. Let's move on to Svetlana. Big everyone. Thank you very much, Blaine. I really appreciate it, mate. Always generous, buddy. And yeah, mate, love you to pieces, man. Listen, I think boxing would be actually a fucking incredible thing to start, but probably it will never happen. But thank you very much, Blaine. And also the geopolitical lens said, can Johnny and Sean name a manager that has won a trophy and challenged for top 6 under Levy and Enoch? I mean, unless it's Juan de Ramos, then like no. So no, we can't. But
listen, I look forward to seeing you next season if Ange stays, which I don't believe he will. I think the taxi is already booked, and when we wave goodbye. But if he is here, and
I will rope up. If we get the confirmation from, not that I actually said this in my video I did this morning with Bugsy. I don't even know if. Are we just expecting a confirmation that doesn't even have to come? Like, there's an argument to say, like, does Daniel Levy, do we need clarification? Is this just a narrative that is pushed around by fans, YouTubers, and media people because they're looking for a story? Maybe Daniel Levy's like, go on, Ange, enjoy your holiday. I'll see you in June. You know,
there'll be no statement, but you'll hear from journalists. There'll be information coming.
It's a bit like The Sound of Music, isn't it? So long, farewell, auf Wiedersehen, goodbye.
100%.
Yeah.
Thank you, Geopolitical Lens. Rob Frank has become a new member. Very, very much appreciate you. Levy in, Ange out. Fuck it out. That's an absolutely unique take. I like that about you, Rob. Can't wait to meet you, buddy, on the fan show, mate. Thank you very much for your support. Appreciate you, boss. And Real Nate Sevens come in with Poch with this team would be interesting. Yeah, it would be, mate, but he's not going to come in. You know what? Even if he was to wait a year, he won't be done with America until too late into next summer. So,
do we believe that Ange really is loving or will embrace the youth in our academy? Do you believe that, Sim? I'm just out of curiosity, just to add something in there. Just out of curiosity, I have to go as well, but just
quick yes or no. Yes or no, so we can round off because everyone's got to go.
Yes,
you do. Okay.
Then we'll leave it there. We'll continue the debate over the coming days and weeks. I want to say massive thank you to Johnny, massive thank you to Sim. Get over to Sim on We Are Tottenham TV on all the socials, and Johnny is on JohnnyH3232 on Twitter and on Insta and on TikTok. He's on Talking Tottenham 1882. You can find me here on Spurs Talk Show and on Twitter, and you can also find Johnny and I on Football Inc. with the links in the description for all that stuff. Sim, thank you. Johnny, thank you so much. We'll leave it there, guys. Enjoy your Wednesday evening. Come on,
Love
the Betis.
Is in the air, guys. Love is in the air.
Come on, the Betis. We'll see what's going on there. Come on, guys. Like, subscribe, and comment. As always, ciao, ciao. Bye-bye.
Come on, you Spurs.